If you are over 60, your body is currently storing a type of fat that is literally poisoning you from within. Scientists at Harvard Medical School recently discovered that visceral fat, the dangerous fat trapped around your organs, releases over 400 different toxic chemicals into your bloodstream every single day. But what shocked researchers most was that people over 60 who followed a specific protocol reduced their visceral fat by up to 73% in just 30 days without extreme diets or exhausting workouts. The study followed 1,847 participants aged 60 to 75, and the results were so dramatic that researchers had to double-check their measurements 3 times. This is not the harmless fat you can pinch under your skin. Visceral fat is a silent killer hiding deep in your abdomen, squeezing your vital organs and contributing to conditions from heart disease to type 2 diabetes. Dr. Samuel Glenn from Washington University found that losing just 5% of visceral fat can add 7 years to your life expectancy. The good news is visceral fat responds faster to the correct approach than any other body fat. Your age actually provides an advantage because your body becomes more responsive to certain metabolic triggers after 60. What you will learn is not another fad diet or miracle supplement, but evidence-based strategies that work with your body's natural fat-burning mechanisms. We will give you exact foods and steps to implement. Here is the most intriguing part. The number 1 most powerful step for melting visceral fat fastest in studies has nothing to do with what you eat or how much you exercise, yet participants using this technique lost 42% more visceral fat than those who did not, according to a groundbreaking 2023 study from the University of Copenhagen. Number 5 is strategic protein timing for metabolic activation. Your body's relationship with protein changes completely after 60, and most people get it wrong in a way that promotes visceral fat storage. Research from the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition showed adults over 60 need 25 to 30 grams of protein per meal to trigger muscle protein synthesis, your body's process of building and maintaining muscle tissue. This matters because every pound of muscle burns about 50 calories daily just existing, while fat tissue burns only 2 calories. A study tracking 387 participants over 60 for 6 months found those consuming adequate protein at each meal lost 23% more visceral fat than those eating the same total protein spread unevenly throughout the day. The key is not just more protein overall, but hitting that threshold at every meal to repeatedly activate your metabolism. Morning protein is especially critical after an overnight fast when cortisol levels are naturally elevated, which can trigger visceral fat storage. Without adequate protein, the best approach is to start your day with eggs, Greek yogurt, or a quality protein smoothie, delivering at least 25 grams within an hour of waking. For lunch and dinner, aim for palm-sized portions of fish, chicken, lean beef, or plant-based proteins like lentils and quinoa combined with beans. This timing creates a metabolic rhythm, keeping your body in fat-burning mode throughout the day. Dr. Douglas Patton Jones from the University of Texas found this strategy increased resting metabolic rate by 14% in adults over 60, meaning you burn more calories even while resting. Preparation is straightforward but requires planning meals around protein first, then adding vegetables and healthy carbohydrates. Cook batches of chicken breast, hard-boiled eggs, or beans in advance to ensure quick protein options are available. Many people over 60 mistakenly eat toast or cereal for breakfast, a salad for lunch, then try to catch up with a large protein portion at dinner. This pattern encourages visceral fat accumulation because metabolism slows without adequate protein stimulation. Now we move to the 4th most powerful strategy that surprised seasoned researchers. Number 4 is temperature manipulation for brown fat activation. Your body contains 2 types of fat tissue, and understanding the difference could revolutionize how quickly you lose visceral fat. After 60, white fat stores energy and makes up most visceral fat, while brown fat actually burns calories to generate heat. A groundbreaking study found people over 60 who exposed themselves to mild cold temperatures for just 2 hours daily increased brown fat activity by 45% and reduced visceral fat by 19% in 4 weeks. The protocol is simple and does not require ice baths. Researchers had participants lower their home thermostat to 66 degrees Fahrenheit for 2 hours each evening while wearing light clothing. This mild cold exposure triggers brown fat to burn white fat for fuel, specifically targeting visceral fat stores first because they are more metabolically active. As we age, brown fat typically becomes less active, contributing to visceral fat accumulation, but cold exposure can reactivate dormant brown fat cells even in people over 70. Another effective technique is ending hot showers with 30 seconds of cool water, noticeably cooler than comfortable, which activates brown fat for up to 4 hours. Afterward, participants who combined a cool shower finish with evening temperature reduction lost 31% more visceral fat than those doing only one method. The best time for cold exposure is between 6 and 8 in the evening, when your body's natural temperature begins dropping, synchronizing with your circadian rhythm and amplifying fat burning while you sleep. Enhance results by drinking a glass of cold water every 2 hours throughout the day, forcing your body to burn extra calories to warm the water. Japanese researchers found this alone can burn an additional 100 calories daily. The key to success is gradual adaptation, starting with 15 minutes of cooler temperature and building up over 2 weeks as your brown fat becomes more active and efficient. Number 3 is time-restricted feeding with metabolic windows. The timing of when you eat might be more important than what you eat for eliminating visceral fat. After 60, a study found people over 60 who restricted eating to an 8 to 10 hour window lost 47% more visceral fat than those eating the same calories spread throughout the day. This is not traditional intermittent fasting, but a strategic approach aligning with your body's natural circadian rhythms and hormonal patterns. The study followed 516 participants aged 60 to 78 for 12 weeks, and the results challenged previous assumptions about meal timing and aging. The sweet spot appears to be eating between 9 in the morning and 7 in the evening, allowing your digestive system to rest for 14 hours overnight. During this fasting period, your body shifts from burning glucose to burning fat, specifically targeting visceral fat because it is more metabolically accessible than subcutaneous fat. Dr. Sachin Panda, who led the research, discovered this eating pattern triggers autophagy, your body's cellular cleaning process that targets dysfunctional fat cells around organs. Participants did not change what they ate or count calories, they simply compressed normal meals into this window. To make this work after 60, start gradually with a 12-hour eating window for the first week, then reduce by 30 minutes each week until reaching a 10-hour target. This prevents a stress response that can increase visceral fat storage if changes are too quick during your eating window. Focus on 3 satisfying meals rather than constant snacking to keep insulin levels stable and prevent visceral fat accumulation. The first meal should be substantial with protein and healthy fats to prevent muscle loss, while the last meal should finish at least 3 hours before bedtime to optimize growth hormone release during sleep. Growth hormone is particularly important after 60 because it directly mobilizes visceral fat for energy and production peaks during deep sleep, but only when insulin levels are low. Participants following this pattern showed a 34% increase in growth hormone levels and accelerated visceral fat loss. Black coffee, tea, and water are allowed during the fasting period and can enhance fat burning by slightly raising metabolic rate without breaking the fast. The second most powerful method builds on everything covered but takes it to another level. Number 2 is targeted soluble fiber loading with probiotics. Scientists discovered that every 10 grams of soluble fiber consumed daily resulted in a 3.7% reduction in visceral fat over 5 years, but when combined with specific probiotics, that number jumped to an 8.4% reduction in just 3 months. This is not about randomly eating more vegetables but strategically consuming specific soluble fibers that create a unique gut environment, forcing your body to burn visceral fat. The research involved 1,114 participants over 60 and revealed soluble fiber works through multiple mechanisms that become more powerful with age. First, it forms a gel-like substance in your digestive system, slowing glucose absorption and preventing insulin spikes that trigger visceral fat storage. Second, it feeds beneficial bacteria that produce short-chain fatty acids, particularly butyrate, which directly signals your body to burn visceral fat for energy. The study showed people with higher butyrate levels had 51% less visceral fat regardless of overall weight. The most effective sources are not what most expect. Why oats and beans are good. Research identified kanja crude, also known as glucomannan, as the most powerful soluble fiber for visceral fat reduction. Just 3 grams before meals reduced visceral fat by 12% in 8 weeks. You can find this as a supplement or in shirataki noodles at most grocery stores. The key is taking it 30 minutes before your largest meal with a full glass of water, allowing it to expand and create an optimal fat-burning environment. Ground flaxseed came in second with 2 tablespoons daily, reducing visceral fat by 9%, but it must be ground fresh or bought pre-ground and kept refrigerated to preserve active compounds. Timing matters enormously because taking soluble fiber with protein-containing meals amplifies the effect by 40%. According to research, the best protocol is 1 tablespoon of ground flax in your morning protein shake, glucomannan before lunch, and a cup of cooked beans with dinner. This creates 3 separate waves of visceral fat burning signals throughout the day. The prebiotic component is equally important, with Jerusalem artichokes, garlic and onions showing the strongest effects. Participants who ate 1 Jerusalem artichoke or 2 cloves of garlic daily showed 27% higher levels of fat-burning bacteria in their gut within 2 weeks. The combination of strategic soluble fiber and probiotics essentially reprograms your metabolism to preferentially burn visceral fat while preserving muscle mass, which is critical after 60. Number 1 is controlled breathing with vagus nerve activation. This breakthrough made researchers question everything they thought they knew about fat loss. After 60, they discovered a specific breathing technique activated the vagus nerve, triggering massive visceral fat reduction without dietary changes or additional exercise. The study followed 892 participants aged 60 to 79 who practiced this technique for 15 minutes twice daily. The results were astounding. The group using this breathing method lost 42% more visceral fat than the control group following the same diet and exercise plan without the breathing protocol. The technique involves breathing in through your nose for 4 counts, holding for 7 counts, and exhaling through your mouth for 8 counts, repeated for 15 minutes. The crucial detail is placing 1 hand on your chest and 1 on your belly, ensuring only your belly moves during breathing. This diaphragmatic pattern stimulates the vagus nerve, which runs from your brain through your organs and directly influences fat metabolism. Dr. Mark Mattson found vagus nerve activation triggers the release of acetylcholine, a neurotransmitter that specifically signals visceral fat cells to release stored energy. Timing amplifies the effect dramatically. Doing this breathing exercise immediately upon waking when cortisol is naturally high reduce cortisol levels by 37% within 15 minutes. High cortisol is a primary trigger for visceral fat storage after 60, so this morning session turns off the fat storage signal for the day. The second session should be done between 3 and 5 in the afternoon when cortisol naturally spikes again, preventing afternoon visceral fat storage that becomes more pronounced with age. The most successful participants sat in a quiet room with no distractions, closed their eyes and focused solely on their breathing rhythm. After 2 weeks, participants reported the technique became automatic and they could feel their body relaxing and shifting into fat-burning mode within the first few breaths. Research showed this breathing technique also improved insulin sensitivity by 23% and reduced inflammatory markers associated with visceral fat by 31%. The beauty of this method is it works independently of diet and exercise, though combining it with other strategies creates a synergistic effect. Participants using all 5 methods together lost an average of 4.2 inches from their waist circumference in 30 days, with scans confirming most loss was dangerous visceral fat. The breathing technique appears to be the cornerstone because it addresses stress and autonomic nervous system dysfunction that drives visceral fat accumulation. After 60-something, diet and exercise alone cannot fully address the path to eliminating visceral fat. After 60 is about consistency with these proven methods. Start with the breathing technique since it requires no equipment or dietary changes and provides immediate stress reduction benefits. Add one new strategy each week, allowing your body to adapt gradually while building sustainable habits. Research is clear that people over 60 who commit to these evidence-based approaches for 30 days experience transformative changes not just in visceral fat levels but in overall vitality and health markers. Your body is remarkably capable of change at any age when given the right signals. These 5 strategies provide exactly what you need to trigger rapid visceral fat loss while preserving precious muscle mass and improving metabolic health for years to come.